Hello and welcome back to the Gold Advantage. And you know what else we're welcoming back? It's the LEC after a week off, which was way too long.
Way too long.
I kind of forgot they had a break, and then I just was disappointed. Things have wrapped up with Vitality in bottom place. Not much to say there. It's been covered. Absolute disaster. Astralis barely doesn't make it in. And we're just talking about this. Do we talk about the rankings? Do we not? I think briefly, the rankings have shown there's such a massive pack of teams sitting in that 4 and 5, 5 and 4. Had SK the results against Fnatic changed, Astralis would have made it in. But it's quite telling that if I told you Astralis made it in instead of Koi, SK, BDS, or even Mad Lions, I think we'd be like, oh, totally understand why. So the round robin, I think, is actually doing a pretty good job of showing that the teams are fairly evenly matched.
Totally.
The important thing was Fnatic really want to finish in second place to make sure that they weren't in G2's groups, hypothetically barring any major upset, guaranteeing a spot in the top 4, which would be great and huge for them. So we have the two groups. Group A is BDS, Heretics, Koi, and G2. And then on the other side, Group B is Mad Lions, Excel, SK, and Fnatic. We're going to, I think, kick it off with Group B because they're day one.
Please.
And we have Excel playing up against Mad Lions. So I have Excel at 2.2, Mad Lions at a 1.58. This is a really interesting match, not because of the match up, like as in the odds, but actually because of what you pointed out, that the trajectory of the teams week to week has been really interesting.
This is the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it before we got on. These are two teams that are going in contrastingly different directions, right? When you look at the week 1, week 2, week 3 timeline of that round robin, this is an Excel team that started 0-3, then all of a sudden jumps to 3-3, and now they're sitting in 5-4 in third place, tied with Heretics.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas on the flip side, this is a Mad Lions team that is 3-0, only wins one more game
over 2 weeks.
The next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And actually, kind of was the team that, I mean, looking at how it goes, like BDS in a clutch matchup had to beat Mad Lions, and they do.
Yeah.
Now, so, this is a thing where maybe once you have that 3-0 weekend at the beginning, you're kind of almost guaranteed in, like it helps. But don't love seeing that. To me, I preface all of that to say, damn it, if Mad Lions doesn't just all of a sudden a switch turns on when it comes to playoff mode. And these guys, while they might not win this, or like they always freaking figure out a way to have an impressive run in them when it comes to playoffs. There's a massive part of me that really wants to bet on this XL team for all the reasons we just mentioned. Plus, the odds are exceptional. 2.54.
Amazing. That sort of underdog odds is just incredible. Yeah. I think just to add to what you're saying, they won one match in week 2 against Astralis, the team that didn't make it in. So bottom tier team, they've lost every other match. And we talked about this in every podcast leading up from this year, which I'm sure you guys have been following because you're subscribed. We're not Mad Lions believers. They kind of squeaked their way into top 4 in the first split. We're doubters. Second split, we predicted that they wouldn't do well. They won it all in the end. However, there's a big
my beloved BDS.
There's a big asterisk there. And the big asterisk is that they were 2 Nexus hits from falling out in 7th place to Fnatic.
That was the craziest fucking match.
Insane. But it also says something that, like, how fine the line is, that had they finished there, we would be like, this is a bad team.
Yeah.
They win it all, so clearly not a bad team. But it's hard for me to, and I think a lot of people have struggled with this, to get behind them. And you're pointing out the fact that they went, 3-0, then 1-2, and then 0-3 in the final week. The momentum is definitely not there, whereas it's the exact opposite story for XL, and the underdog odds are so good. I like this. XL wants to win. They really, really do. I actually think Abidaga has been doing decently in the mid lane. He's kind of been doing, fairly well. We'll have to see what happens with Mad Lions, but if you're just taking the odds before the match, the money line is great. But also what's really great is looking at each individual match and seeing how the drafts go, because you're getting such good odds on XL. And if you really do believe that, hey, these are the returning champions and they're going to win every match, I have individual map lines at 1.65 to 1.72 on Mad Lions. So you can actually get pretty good result on them as well. And this is just a very interesting one. What's crazy to me is that You have one team, which is without a doubt XL. It's greater than some of their parts. They have struggled and struggled,
Yeah.
and are a team, and I was doubting them in the final week, that have cobbled together this roster, and it actually somehow is clicking.
It's
I
clicking.
don't think Peach is great, but he seems to be doing fine. Oduame is playing great as always. Abadage in the mid lane is, it seems like trending back to form. Patrick
Yeah.
and Limit in bot lane, I think, are decent. This is not going to be the team that wins it all, but I
No.
definitely think that they could upset, and there's so much value.
So let me ask you this, because
Sure.
I am wrestling with the whole cluster of thoughts. There is 0% chance that Mad Lions wins this 2-0. So just throw that out. There's just no way Mad Lions is beating XL
Sure.
twice back to back as a team that hasn't won but one game in the past 2 weeks with a break. So do I bet the over 2.5 maps at 2.09, which
Yeah.
I really like.
Yeah.
But then guard against that. To me, then the only chance that there's a 2-0 is if you get XL beating Mad Lions 2-0. So XL at minus 1.5 is 4.92.
Yeah.
Now, that means effectively, if you're putting a unit on each, and by the way, I'd put like 2 units on the over 2.5 and like 1 unit on the handicap.
Yeah. No, you hedge it appropriately so that like
Right.
the over 2.5
But let's
pays
just
out.
say you did it 1 and 1. Basically, then if the 2.5 hits, you're only making 0.09, which I don't love it. Like, would you just be better off than betting XL straight up at 2.54? And that's where I'm at. I just think like there's no reason to bet Mad Lions at minus 1.5, and there's definitely no reason to bet them on the money line because they've done nothing to show that.
No, they've done nothing. If I would take Mad Lions on the map lines, if they get really good drafts and you start to see them, then I'd start to take them on the individual draft map lines.
I'm kind of netting out as I'm going to put 2 units on over 2.5. By taking the over 2.5, you are giving yourself the out that Mad Lions might win.
Okay. I love that. I really do. I think that's great. Next match of the day is Fnatic versus SK. This, I think, is going to be super one-sided. SK nearly didn't make it into groups because of the way the format. They made it in at the end. Fnatic have consistently just shown that they are the better team. There's nothing there that's really standing out to me. The odds on Fnatic are absolutely atrocious. I don't know that I would take any of that. Even the minus 1.5, it's at 1.58. So I would probably go for that. I don't think that's terrible.
I'm seeing a little bit better than you.
Sure.
Not to keep doing this to you over podcast. I'm seeing minus 1.5 at 1.78. Which is actually
definitely take that.
Kind of tasty. Yeah, that's pretty tasty. I'm not touching SK with a 10-foot pole. Not a whole lot to talk about on this. Fnatic, great job, has shown the reliability of the split, and definitely next to G2, one of the best teams remaining.
You can get Fnatic minus 7.5. So minus 6.5, I have it at 1.64. Minus 8.5 is a 1.98. I think anywhere between that, my 7.5 is 1.78. I think any of those is actually really good.
I think you have to take both of those though. Just both. Don't try and pick the game. Take them both games, right?
Oh yeah. No, so definitely. So yes, 100%.
Yeah.
You take them both games. You take them game 1. You take them game 2, and I would take somewhere between minus 6 and minus 8.5, depending on your tolerance. I'll put that on Fnatic plus the minus 1.5, and I think you laugh all the way to the bank with that stuff.
Love it.
Jumping over to Group A, which goes on day 2, kick
Very
things
confusing.
off with BDS versus Heretics. Give me your book, because you've got the better book.
I do have a better book. Heretics is at a 1.74, BDS at a 2.02.
BDS has just looked bad.
They haven't looked great.
And I think part of this was, okay, Adam was ill to the point where he was subbed out for the first couple of weeks. So you can give some of the jitters there. They end up 4-2, so, 2-1 in the final week. So that's a good indication, hey, things are getting better. They won a really clutch game against Mad Lions, like you said, so that's a good thing. Heretics, though, on the other hand, they won 3-0 week 1
to the next 1 and 2 week 3. So let me just suggest, and this is where this truly does feel like an equal game, right?
Yeah.
Like this feels like BDS a little bit on the upswing. I'm not going to read too much into an upswing when you're 4-5 or a downswing when you're 5-4. But what I will say is Heretics started off 3-0, the 5 teams that they have beaten, Astralis, no longer in the tournament. Vitality, no longer in the tournament. Now, of course, those teams aren't in the tournament because they lost everybody.
Yeah.
But so the 3 teams that they have beaten is Mad Lions, a falling Mad Lions, SK, the team that we just mentioned, not really worth talking about, and BDS.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they didn't have a standout win against anybody that I would say is worth the wait, being Koi kind of, but G2, Fnatic, and XL. Now, again, these things happen when you're in a round robin. These things happen also when teams are better. So I would only posit to say, at the value that the books are giving, this to me, again, I'm going to steal my thing that I did for XL Mad Lions. This feels like an over 2.5. The sports books also think it's going to be an over 2.5 because the odds are 1.98, so almost 2.0. But to see an over 2.5 under 2.0 odds, it means the sports books are like, yeah, we think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I actually like that. I do like the over 2.5. I think they will end up going that far, just also because of the way BDS plays. They're very fast and loose, and they tend to sometimes get in their own way. I think that's a good one. Despite everything I said, and like you, I love you pointing out the teams that Heretics have beaten.
Yeah,
a little bit of the excitement around Flackett coming back and Yankos doing well. I think his Boyd Heretics, they are maybe the team that will upset, but the underdog odds on BDS are good. That being said, I hate to say it, as I always do, but this is a draft. When you have so much parity in the odds, you're risking so much by betting it pre-draft, and you're not gaining a lot on the odds. So betting, if there were outsized odds, for example, in the Fnatic SK game, if Fnatic was a 1.5, 1.6, I would say slam money on that right now, because that is going to crash down. You want to jump on it early. In this situation, the odds are pretty even. If Heretics gets good draft, your 1.74 might drop down to, let's say, a 1.65 or a 1.6, but that's still good odds. It's good odds. And on the flip side, the BDS odds might go from, what do you say, 2 point something?
2.02.
2.02, maybe they drop to 1.9. Still really good odds. And it just minimizes the risk that I'm going through. So that's what I like there. I do like the over 2.5 maps. I think that one works well.
That's just where I have to go. To your point about playstyle, like, even when BDS has the draft that you think is fucking going to crush it, and they start to crush it, they're also so liable to then also just make a boneheaded play. And then fucking, like, I've seen this ad nauseum with this BDS team where they should have won and they didn't win.
Yeah.
And so I like the over 2.5. I think that's going to be my only bet because the value on the money lines isn't great enough. And I think both these teams are pretty even.
Yeah. Final match here, G2 Koi. G2 came out on top. Clearly best team, I think, in Europe. They're tightening their play up from the last split and MSI. And the odds reflect that. 1.14 and 5.18. By the way, I've changed books. I found your secret book. So I know your odds are the same as mine. I couldn't let you have all the thunder there.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
If one team is upsetting, SK upsetting Fnatic, Koi upsetting G2, which team is it?
I think it would be Koi.
I think that too. So like 5.18 as odds.
But look, the two teams I predicted to do bad last split, Mad Lions and Koi. I got Koi right. And I think they're going to continue to be like that. They've lost all the worst part of it, I think Larssen, I think he's the best mid laner in LEC at the moment. He's playing so well. He really, really is playing so well. But the team, Malrang is a liability. Comp, they got rid of Trimby for whatever reason there. So Comp, Trimby, best bot lane in EU at one point has now gone. And guess what? Trimby's now looking incredible with Noah on Fnatic. So they definitely won that. This is a sinking ship of a Koi. I don't think they're going to win. I think it's going to be a 2-0. I would take G2 at a -1.5 at 1.59. I think that those are actually pretty good. I would also go for and this is the thing, the kill handicaps are rough, but I would take -8.5, -9.5 on G2. Map 1, map 2, you can get -8.5 at 1.66, -9.5 at 1.86. I would take those.
I know you're going to call me a hater.
Sure.
I just haven't been as impressed with this G2 team when I watch them. Like, the eye test just isn't...
This year as a whole or this split?
This split.
Oh, no, they're so much better. Last split, I agreed with you. I started to... you were vindicated. They finished in 4th place. MSI, they didn't look great. But this split, their bot lane is arguably the best. I said Larssen is better than Caps, but, still second. Who's better than G2? Fnatic?
I kind of feel like this is Fnatic split.
Okay. But outside of them?
Outside of them, obviously BDS, always.
I feel like there's such a gap in the LEC between the top two and everyone else.
It is.
Yeah.
Unquestionably a gap. Now, I say all that, and this is where we have to be careful.
Sure.
Which is, these guys have only played every team once, right? Yep. And so, like, when you're only playing every team once, it's easier, I think, for there to be that kind of an initial just gap, because you're not having to see them again and kind of be able to adjust. And this is why I kind of bring up the whole, like, in these matches that are going to be against these teams that are a little bit closer in ranking, like, just take the over 2.5, because there are going to be some opportunities. But this is a split where I don't love betting the first weekend, like this weekend as it is. I think I'll be more excited to bet on Monday, which obviously maybe we'll be able to find time to record before then. But it's just such a small window between when it finishes and when the next matches take. But I think I'm going to be a lot more excited to play some money on Monday after having seen how these guys do in a best of 3.
Okay. I don't disagree with that. I think it's going to be interesting to see how they play, how they adapt to best of 3s, especially in the on the over/under on the kills. That will help a lot of things. Okay, so you're saying you are taking the upset.
I'm not taking the upset.
Okay, but however, so I'll say with you this.
I'm not going to put any money on G2 because I think the odds are so abysmal.
Yes.
So, like, I'm going to put half a unit, like a $5 wager.
Sure.
A fun little flyer on Koi for an upset at 5.1.
Well, I was going to say this. I would look at individual maps. If Koi get anything resembling a winning draft, or G2 does like a bit of too risky a draft, these odds are so generous, you might as well throw a small unit, half a unit, 1 unit on that for the upset, because if that hits once, chef's kiss.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss all the way.
And it's going to be map 1. If Koi have any chance in winning this, they have to win map 1. Because G2 can lose and then come back and still be fine, right?
And win the
like any of these teams. Right. I would take Koi map 1, which is 3.78.
Cool. Okay, that wraps it up. We will be doing a one-off episode to cover the matches that are coming on Monday. Thanks for tuning in. Chef's kiss to the people that like, ones that subscribe, and especially ones that join our Discord. And we will see you all later this week. Bye, everyone.
Toodaloo.